First, he shaved off the full beard he'd grown over several years. Then he used water from the toilet to style his hair into a trendy cut. Next, he retrieved the police uniform he'd hidden in the tank's compartment. After sprucing himself up, he transformed into a dashing prison guard. This outrageous stunt left his fellow inmates speechless. Finally, taking advantage of a moment when he brushed past a guard, he swiped the access card from the guard's waist, and just like that, Neil walked out of the prison with ease. However, just as he was a step away from freedom, a new guard stopped him. The air froze instantly. Fortunately, this newcomer wasn't familiar with his colleagues. After a brief exchange of glances, he waved Neil through. And so, Neil walked out of the prison that had held him captive for nearly 4 years, but having regained his freedom, he didn't rush to flee. Instead, he bought a yellow work uniform for a few dollars at a roadside stall, and waited in the airport parking lot. His goal wasn't to board a plane and fly away, but to target a convertible sports car about to pull into the terminal. As soon as the luxury car came to a stop, he immediately posed as a valet and approached the driver. The owner, completely unsuspecting, handed him the keys and a $100 tip. And just like that, Neil, a prisoner one moment, was behind the wheel of the luxury car the next, cruising through the bustling streets of New York to the beat of pulsating music. A sensational, citywide heist would soon bind the two men who should have been on opposite sides together. News of Neil's escape soon reached the ears of Federal Agent Borch, which undoubtedly added to his headaches. He knew all too well how cunning Neil was. It had taken him 5 whole years to catch him back then. As the adversary who knew Neil best, the task of apprehending him once again fell on Borch's shoulders. But what puzzled him greatly was why Neil, who was always so meticulous, would choose to escape on the eve of his release. After all, Neil would carve dense patterns into the wall every day, which showed he was filled with immense anticipation for his release. Borch immediately concluded that some kind of emergency must have occurred to make Neil take such a desperate risk at the very last moment. By reviewing the visitation footage, Borch discovered that Neil's girlfriend, Kate, came to visit every week, but she hadn't shown up since her last visit. Since the visitation footage had no audio, Borch could only decipher their conversation by reading their lips. "Goodbye, Neil. It's all true." Those parting words made it instantly clear to Borch that the answer might lie with Kate. Sure enough, when Borch led his team to surround Kate's apartment, the genius who had just pulled off a perfect escape was sitting on the floor like an abandoned child, clutching an empty wine bottle, his face filled with desolation. He had come for his lover, only to find she had already left. It seemed Borch's hunch was correct. Neil had indeed risked breaking out of prison for his girlfriend, but he was still too late. Compared to going back to prison, Neil cared far more about his girlfriend's sudden departure. But just as he was about to surrender, his gaze fell on the metal thread on Borch's shoulder. As a top-tier genius in the world of forgery, Neil recognized the origin of that fiber at a glance. Neil then calmly told Borch, "This is the security thread from the new version of the Canadian $100 bill." And this became Neil's trump card to turn the tables. At first, Borch didn't think much of it, but soon, his assistant's report confirmed Neil's claim. This seemingly ordinary bank heist instantly escalated into an international incident. It turned out that Borch was being toyed with by a criminal codenamed the Dutchman. Not only had the culprit ransacked the bank's vault, but after making off with the loot, he had deliberately altered